Hello and welcome back to another episode of Notion Bonsai. And today I'm going to be showing you how to make your very own cut putty to use on your bonsai trees. And stick around to the end of this video where we compare what we make with commercial grade cut putty that you would find in a bonsai nursery. If you are new to bonsai, you may be wondering what is cut putty and what are its uses in bonsai. When I got started, I was really confused between the different types of cut putty and the different types of cut paste. And then what's the difference between cut paste and cut putty when you're buying it? Cut putty, what we're going to be making today, is simply a putty that we apply onto a tree after making a big cut. It sort of has a Play-Doh-like consistency to it. This would be more used for bigger cuts on trees. Whenever you cut a large branch or a big piece of a trunk, I would be more inclined to use the cut putty. Some will have this grayish color and others will have a brownish color, and the only real difference between these is simply the color. Some colors blend in more than others. This, on the other hand, is cut paste. This sort of has more of a toothpaste, PVA glue-like consistency to it, and this would be more for small cuts on trees. If you cut a little branch and you want to just seal the end, or perhaps you're trying to bend a branch on a tree and you get a little crack, you would take the cut paste, seal it up. That way the tree doesn't lose moisture, the tree can recover. And then depending on what cut paste that you get, some come in different colors just like the putty, and again you can get both of these with a growth hormone in them to help the tree recover at a much faster rate. And now before we begin, I just want to start off by saying that because we are working with hot chemicals, safety is extremely important. You want to wear something that has long sleeves just to protect your skin. I'm wearing a lab coat. Wear gloves and eye protection, and because it's quite a bright day here today, instead of wearing these, I'm going to wear some sunglasses. You also want to do this in a well-ventilated area. I'm doing it outdoors. I want to start by saying that this video was inspired by Dorian's video over on his channel, Naturgeist. He made his own version of his cut putty, and I took his recipe, adapted it to my needs and product availability to make the cut putty that we're going to make in this video today. So if you guys could, after this video, go check out his video. And now the ingredients and supplies that we're going to be using in this video today are a chopstick, some measuring spoons, an old frying pan, one that you're never going to use again to cook food in, a hot plate or something to add heat in a controlled way, petroleum jelly, pine resin, beeswax pellets, cinnamon powder, a scale so we can weigh our ingredients, sulfur powder, some activated charcoal powder, sunflower lecithin powder, organic Japanese matcha, neem oil, waterproof wood glue, and finally you're going to want an empty container to put the putty in when we're finished. So we're just going to start by weighing out 40 grams of beeswax. And I will leave the entire list of ingredients and concentrations of each in the description of this video. So that is 40 grams there. And we're just going to add that into the frying pan. And the point of the beeswax in this mixture is simply to help all the ingredients come together so we get a nice creamy texture, but it will also help in applying to the tree. It should stick a little bit better with this in it. So I'm just going to bring this to medium heat, say to number 3. So we're just going to use the chopstick to stir this around as it melts. And over here now I'm going to weigh out 5 grams of sulfur. Sulfur has this really nice bright yellow color to it. And this is to give our cut paste some fungicidal properties, as sulfur acts as a fungicide. So we'll just stir that in, make sure it is all broken up. The same as the sulfur, we're adding in 5 grams of sunflower lecithin, and this is really to act as an emulsifier to bind all the ingredients together, and it will all become this one nice homogeneous mixture. And I am keeping this on quite a low heat now as this all mixes together. I am adding in 10 grams of activated charcoal powder. This should give our cut putty a nice dark blackish grey color. Gonna mix all that in. And activated charcoal is also really well known for its ability to remove toxins and impurities. And now that we have added it to this cut putty, it should help prevent infection by absorbing pathogens and harmful bacteria. I am weighing out another 10 grams of cinnamon powder. Cinnamon has some really good antifungal and antibacterial properties, so it's a great addition to this cut putty, and it also smells really good. Now we're going to add some organic matcha powder. Matcha powder has this lovely green hue to it, and it actually comes from refined tea leaves. The tea leaves are collected when they are just really young shoots on the tea tree. They're covered in shade netting for a few days just to help the trees boost their chlorophyll before they're harvested. Then they're taken, dried, and ground up into a really fine powder, and that's where we get matcha. I'm not using ceremonial grade matcha for this, as I don't think I really need that expensive matcha. Instead, I am using just organic culinary grade matcha, and for this I'm going to weigh out 10 grams. Matcha powder like this is really high in antioxidants, things like catechins, which is a compound in the matcha powder, and aside from that I think it's quite a good bulking agent to add to the cut putty, just to give it a little bit of a body. So I'm just mixing the matcha now through this. I have turned off the heat and the beeswax is just beginning to solidify a little, and I'm just going to turn the heat back on again, and I want to try and keep this as a liquid in the pan. As you can see now, it's starting to liquefy, but I don't want to let this stay too hot for too long so that the ingredients don't burn. Now, taking the petroleum jelly, I'm going to add 4 teaspoons of this. It will give it that nice flexibility when spreading it over a wound, and it should also help in creating a really good moisture barrier. So we're just going to melt this through, and we're now starting to get a really nice consistency in the pan. Now I'm just weighing out 4 grams of pine resin, and when I was chatting to Dorian about his mixture, he did say that the pine resin can be pretty hard to melt. Okay, so we're 4.5 grams, that should be okay. I'm going to crush this up just to increase the surface area. It should melt a little bit faster when we add it to the pot. So I'm just taking a little bit of greaseproof paper, putting the pine resin into it, folding it up, and we're going to crush this with a hammer. It looks pretty good to me. All right, so in goes the pine resin. And if you are doing this yourself, you don't have to stick to this exact recipe. You can mess around with each ingredient, adding more or less, or even other ingredients that you may think will work, until you get a consistency and cut putty that you're happy with. So that pine resin just melted almost instantaneously, which is a really good sign. And by adding the pine resin, this will really give us long-lasting protection with the cut putty. It won't fall off, or we won't have to keep reapplying it to the tree. It will give it a little bit of strength. Next, I'm going to add 2 teaspoons with what is known as neem oil. This is really to act as an insecticide, keep insects away from our wounds as they are healing. So that's 1, 2, maybe just a little bit more. That has quite a strong smell to it. I have heard a lot of people in the gardening world talk about using neem oil as like an insecticide to spray on your plants to keep insects away. Then I'm going to add 4 teaspoons of wood glue. You want this wood glue to be waterproof, that way the cut putty keeps water out of the tree. This will make up a lot of body of the cut putty also. And once you add the wood glue, I would advise doing this at the end because it can begin to bubble up quite a bit, as you can see here. Making quite a cool sound if I put the mic close. Like, I can totally see why Dorian made an ASMR of this. Another added benefit of using wood glue is it will also give our putty a stickiness, so it will adhere to the tree in a really good way. And because we've got it mixed with loads of oils, it's unlikely to harden once it's applied to the tree. It should be pretty easy to remove. And then as a final ingredient, this one is really optional. I'm going to be adding in some cedarwood essential oil. This is my favorite essential oil. I really love the smell of cedarwood. So aside from giving your cut putty a lovely smell, you'll also get the benefits from essential oils like antifungal and antibacterial properties. So just mix all this together and it smells great. I really love the smell of cedarwood. And then once you think everything has homogenized in the pan, I'm just going to turn off the heat, take the pan off of the heat, and then over here on the other side of the table, I'm going to prepare some greaseproof paper. So as the putty cools down and it is safe to touch, we are going to be kneading it. But just for this, I would recommend putting on some gloves. That way none of the stuff sticks to your hands or gets on your skin. And then after it's fully cooled, it should be safe enough to touch to use on your trees. All right, so I'm just going to take this now and pour it onto the greaseproof paper. As you can see, as I pour it here, it is still quite viscous, so maybe it is not completely cooled yet. And it should cool faster if we pour it out into little blobs like this, because it will spread out, you'll get more surface area and it will cool a lot quicker. These pieces are beginning to cool. I'm just going to spread this out to try and cool it faster. So now this time I'm going to go in with my hands and just begin kneading this. And as you can see already, I can still feel through the gloves that this is still warm, but as it cools, the consistency should get a little bit tougher. It is nice and soft now as it is. I'm going to try and bring all this in. now it is getting to the point where I'm not quite happy with the texture I have achieved. It is a good putty, it's nice and doughy, but it's still a little bit too sticky for my liking. But this is not to worry, we can just correct this, heat it up again, add some more beeswax. And I think it's important to show the inconsistencies in the mixture like this, because if someone watching has made theirs and they added a little bit too much of something else, what can you add to bring it back to a good consistency? I think this would really benefit with more beeswax. So back into the pan. And into this also, which I think would be a really good addition along with all the antimicrobial benefits, is this. This is just some Plumbers putty. Plumbers putty is sort of this nice stretchy material. And you just want to make sure that whatever Plumbers putty that you are using is non-toxic. And I really came up with adding this Plumbers putty very last minute. I just came up with it about 10 minutes ago. And of course, if you're watching this and you think you have a great idea of something to use as a binder, let me know down in the comments. I'd love to hear your ideas. Okay, so I've been stirring it for the past 5 or 10 minutes now, and I think we're getting pretty close to looking like the original cut putty from like the commercial brands. Look at this, same color and everything. And as I mix this through, it's getting pretty tough to stir. It's getting really solid. As you can see, I can actually bring it out in like big lumps. This is really like super tough stuff. So much more tough than the last one, and it's still not fully cooled. I'm just going to take this measuring spoon and use this to scoop it out. And it's solidified against the edges of the container. I would say this is definitely the right texture that I wanted. I don't even think I need gloves. It's not even sticking to my hands when I press on it. I can see there is some white streaks through it, which tells me it hasn't mixed together completely. So I got as much of the cut putty out of the pan that I could. Now we're going to start kneading this. And as you can see, it's got a really great consistency. Look at that. Wow. That is almost, I would say that is more or less the real consistency of the stuff you would buy. I'm just gonna knead this. My God, look at the color and everything. I'm gonna keep kneading this. So what I'm doing is just taking it in small amounts that's manageable, and then just kneading it until it becomes the one consistency and color. You can even just twist it, put it back together, and then once this little batch has been sort of homogenized, I can move on to another piece. So now we've got this pretty homogeneous. It's got this lovely creamy texture to it, almost like that of the real cut putty. Now I'm going to put some of this into this little container. I'm pretty happy with that. So now it is time to really put this cut putty to the test. We're first going to see, does it work? Does it stick to a tree after we cut a branch? And second of all, how does it fare up when compared to cut putties that you can get in bonsai nurseries? So let's start by just opening the lid. So after just wetting my finger, I'm going to see if I can take some of this out. This looks pretty good to me. I'm going to take a little bit more. I plan to air layer the very top of this tree because this scar on the trunk here isn't really that nice looking. And the putty that I have on this is the commercial grade stuff already. So if I just cut this branch, I'm going to apply some of my cut putty just to see how it applies, and it applies really well. It sticks to the tree, no problem. I would just say it's more or less identical to the stuff up here. It feels exactly the same. Plus it has all them nice ingredients with antifungal, antibacterial properties. It repels insects. And when looking at the color, it really isn't that much different from the original. And if you wanted to get this a little darker, like this one, you could just add a tiny bit more activated charcoal and you could adjust the color that way. I've got this green piece of acrylic so we can see what's happening here, but this is our one and this is the commercial grade one. So I'm going to do a spread test just to see the difference in consistency, and also you can see ours is a lighter color. So I'm just going to take this, pull down. So this one definitely spreads better. Ours kind of is more, maybe tougher. Maybe we could add more wood glue or wax to this to make it similar to this one. This one definitely has a better consistency, but I think for a first attempt, we didn't do that bad. I personally think when it comes to which one I would prefer to use on my trees, definitely the one I made. First of all, because it's self-made. I really like things that are self-made. But I also think the one we made has a lot more benefits for the tree, like the cinnamon, matcha powder, activated charcoal. Now don't quote me on this, but from the research that I have done online about this particular cut putty, I believe it is made from some type of polymer, thermoplastic type stuff. I think it's polyolefin. Then they use some fillers and then a dye to give it that grey colour. Now I'm sort of thinking of ideas how I could make cut putty that has a brown colour to go with some conifers. Maybe I could use something like cocoa powder or iron oxide maybe. I will definitely experiment with this in the future off camera, so stay up to date on my Instagram to see how I do with that. It's at notionbonsai. But on that, I'm going to end off this video right here. If you enjoyed, please be sure to leave a like on this video. It really helps out the channel a lot with the YouTube algorithm. And please let me know what you guys thought of this video down in the comments below. Is there anything you would add to this mix to make it even better? I'm always open to new and different ideas when making cut putties. If you would like to support me and the things that I do on this channel, hit the thanks button down below. Or if you'd like to become a channel member, hit the join button. That way you'll get early access to new videos before they go out to everyone else, and you will get access to membership posts. Again, don't forget to check out Dorian's channel, Naturgeist. But on that, thank you so very much for watching.